Welcome back, Poggers, to another episode of the PogState. This is the big one, the culmination of everything this summer season 2024 for the LCK. And we're here in Lowell Park to really drill in the gravity, because there's a little bit more gravity here. There's not actually, there's the same amount of gravity.
9.8.
Off to
9.8.
cracking start.
Did you hear that apparently
really
there's like a section of Antarctica that has different amounts of gravity? That was really weird YouTube
I think
video
this is
that I partially
the
watched.
fastest sidetrack
Yeah,
we've ever had in a PogState
very sidetracked. Mainly because I'm a little bit scared of Comic Sans. And I think a lot of us are probably feeling this, because now it is time for us to reveal the results of our predictions that we had earlier in the year. If you remember, we all predicted exactly what the standings were going to look like at the end of the regular season for summer. We were then able to swap two teams in at the end of the first round robin, and now we get to see the results. And I'm actually, like, none of us, so theoretically, we all know what we predicted, and now we know the standings. And so all of us have been having a discussion about who we think is the loser and who's going to be the winner. And none of us have actually done enough work to know anything.
No, it's and not only that, because we want to keep the mystique alive, but also I feel like this is one of the worst season of predictions we've done. Like collectively, as in
Which
getting...
is why I'm in for a shot.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Finally, he's got his chance.
Because I think that, because we had the Kwangdong collapse, which we somehow none of us saw coming initially.
If they beat DRX, I would have absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
I would have had the top 7 correct.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have.
Well,
I
no,
would have had top
but
6.
top 6 would still be huge, right?
Top 6 would have been pretty good. But as it turns out, they
like
don't
that we
make
just
playoffs.
keep delaying and not opening the envelopes, because
All right,
I'm afraid
okay,
to get
okay.
sandsed again.
So,
I feel pretty sandsable at the moment.
The way that it is arranged, as you can see here, we've got third place, which is very normal, first places, which look lovely.
Some underlines.
And then the sad face. And look at how sad it is.
It's in Comic Sans, the sad face. Clearly. I
It's
mean,
commonly
just-
known
just
as
look
the
at it. I
wolf
mean, it's
envelope.
Comic Sans.
Not again. Okay, last split we thought it was the Atlas envelope, and then he had it was a last minute twist.
Okay, so judging by both of these first place envelopes, we can work out which one is the better one, because you can see a first place envelope is purely like judged by how squiggly the bottom underline is.
So one
And
of
you
us
can
is
tell
really
that this
first.
is the most first. There is a most first, so let's see who is actually the most first in these preds. This is actually closed?
It's actually sealed.
It's actually
Sealed,
sealed?
yeah.
The drama.
That means that we
we're
know
gonna
that
do
no
the-
one
And the
peaked.
winner
Drum roll.
is...
All right, give me a drum roll. Woo! And the winner is... Chronicler!
What a tryhard.
Yay!
Always
He just
try
loves
hard
getting the predictions
getting the
correct,
preds
yeah.
correct every week.
He talks about
Wow.
it every day. He's
Can
like, wow,
someone
guys,
please
do you think
turn
I'm
his
going to win
microphone
again?
off?
Yay.
He's
Double
pretending like he doesn't care.
Congratulations,
Double
Chronicler.
press.
Congratulations, Chronicler. And
I
now...
haven't even been able to celebrate because I keep getting preemptively roasted.
Well, I mean, the sad thing is that you also got the prettiest envelope. And so not only did you get first place, but you got first place.
Yeah.
It comes with the envelope.
And now there is another one. And I have a feeling I know whose this might be.
Fadles?
Because I'm pretty sure they
Vatless?
had the same predictions.
We did.
Yay!
And it's Valdez!
Yay!
And you see, I'm a bit confused about this because I did the calculation in my head and I was even.
We did the same swap,
Yeah,
by the way.
We actually didn't change anything.
So we
don't
share
forget,
the cool envelope, by the way.
Did you get like 6 out of
I don't know,
10?
Atlas, but don't forget that last spring you were certain all the math that you did that you were lost, and we
I
kept
can
joking
check.
about
That's
it.
true, actually.
I can check right now. 5.
He's doing math on stream.
You guys got 6 correct. It looks like.
Ah, 6. Okay, then that's where I went wrong.
And I guess there's also how close you were to. We don't know the algorithm.
It's
The
a mystery.
algorithm is how many
Mystery.
did you get right? It's not an
It's a
algorithm.
mystery.
It's just how many you got right.
Algorithm.
And so now, between Wolf and myself, there is also Dagon, who did this as well. We don't know where his envelope is or if he has one. He might be in here. Maybe one of us just doesn't exist.
Was there another tie snuck into the same envelope?
Ooh, perhaps.
Very sneaky.
Oh,
We're
so
not entirely sure.
Kayan's sitting. She's not giving anything away.
Yeah, she
I
is
tried
a
to
brick
glean some
wall.
information.
No
A
info.
brick nothing.
Wall.
What if
we're
there's
gonna
like
do
a
it.
5th place envelope somewhere?
She's gonna run on the stage like, here you go.
We're going to do it slightly differently this time around, though, ladies and gentlemen. And this time, we are going to reveal the Comic Sans first. This third place, which does look very pretty, but it doesn't have an underline, so it's not as cool as the first. We're going to open the sad face.
Please give me Times New Roman. Or Arial font, you know?
Ariel?
Endings.
That would be.
I
That
just
would be
really hope that it's somehow
so
Atlas
normal.
after we're sure it's Wolf.
Well, this is a bit thick.
Uh-oh.
This is feeling a bit thick. Oh,
there's two
dear.
papers.
Drum roll. Drum roll. All right, here we go. Here's the first one. Oh no.
That's why they call
Comic
it
Sans.
I thought D Plus was going to end better than Hanwha. It was my bad.
Who else is in here with the sad face?
Super sad.
It is also Dagon.
Dagon.
Oh no.
Dagon
Gonna go
next to me.
for the double lost in his first split.
Yeah.
What a bro
He's so
leaver.
good at inting predictions, isn't he?
He's an
And now,
entertainer.
I guess that Atlas, the middle child, is going to reveal himself.
No? Okay.
Hi guys.
I don't know what font that is.
It's just
It's a nice font.
a
What font is it? She doesn't know.
Yeah,
It's the
we
same
don't
as the
have it
winner as well. So
confirmed.
I guess we really just honed in on the losers only this
Yeah.
time.
Oh, I mean, I should have had half of mine in Comic Sans to even it out. But unfortunately, I've got 5 letters in my name.
So
Or
the key
3.
thing was that if you
Or
were
7.
able to identify that or swap to Hanwha Life being second, then you were golden. If you couldn't do that, GG. That was the main crux of it.
And it depended on your initial predictions as well. Just
I
like
think if
what
you just
swaps
got
were good for
more
you.
teams in the right positions, then you win.
Because you also had to swap 2-1 down.
But I couldn't
we all
swap.
did.
But because I put Hanwha third, I couldn't swap. If I could have done the same swap you guys had,
Yeah.
I would have been fine. But I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was
Yeah,
what
'cause
was
then-
the thing that initially went wrong?
T1 for everyone. Except for you.
Except for me, my T1 just stayed in the same
Yeah,
spot.
you just
because
thought
I'm based
DK was gonna
and
be
just know
second.
things. Yeah, the DK second was my biggest problem. So doing that, having to use that as my swap. Otherwise, I would have, like, if I had Hummer Life Esports in second, I could have done the bro swap, and then I would have got 1 extra, and we would have been tied. So it would have made no real difference.
Yeah, like me and Dagon got 3 out of 10.
So what are the big stories? So obviously all our swaps involve T1 of literally everyone. So T1 was
Not me.
worse. Except for Max, sorry. Max was running
Max
the money
knew.
initially. Max
So
knew.
I knew how everything was going to go.
And then the Kwangnon collapse, which we warned Dagon for, but we still all put them fifth.
Not Max.
Yeah, except
Sixth.
Max.
But then they lost to DRX. Otherwise, it would I would have been like, see, I'm smart, but actually I'd still just get middle child third.
You
Sad.
should have
better
known
than
that
getting
Teddy and
Comic
Plato
Sans.
were good enough.
Yeah, the DRX hope.
We
That
did
was my
mention
sad
it
part.
like repeatedly on broadcast about even during the PogState debate about like, come on guys, DRX is a free win, which I kind of feel like we set that up inadvertently,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't a free win.
I think I was spending too much time with Dan talking about how Pled is really good. And then also it was earlier in the season and we thought Rascal was going to win more than a game. Although
And
he
he
did
won
win a
two.
series. He did win a
was
series.
fun.
That's true.
I think there was a measurable growth for Nongshim this season.
Yeah.
And they obviously had some interchanging parts,
Yeah.
but Vital coming in was pretty huge for them. They were able to upset T1. They had a pretty, like, remember, when you think about Nongshim, you think about the Challengers roster they brought through last year, and then it feels like it's the same team, but then you look and you're like, actually, it's only Sylvie. that's the same part of that roster. Everything else is different.
Jiwoo
Because
kind of as well.
I mean, Dundon is
but
gone.
it was initially.
It was initially vital in
yeah.
AD
Yeah.
carry, but he's still there in support.
So it's interesting to see like the changes they made and the growth that they had. I think that's a good sign, a good look. Whereas otherwise, Kwangdong having their mid-season decline and then just kind of collapse into like didn't fix it and kind of declined. Bro, it was no measurable growth. I feel like the entirety of the year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like this roster probably needs to get blown up and rebuilt.
I liked Doiv. He was
great.
good.
Yeah.
Doiv was good, and then he disappeared, and he's gone now.
They also, I do
forever.
think that we need to collectively acknowledge that Bro was essential in Genji not getting an undefeated split.
Yeah, because KT had to lose to Bro in order for KT to win.
right, yeah, the
That's
charge up
only
of
way
the
They
to
had
do
to,
it.
they had to get 2-0 by Brion
good
for
point.
Genji to lose to KT. Otherwise, it would have made too much sense.
They did get 2-0'd by Kwangdong at the same time, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it was really due.
Right?
It
No,
was really
Kwangdong
due.
did 2-0 them. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So everybody also
Damn,
had
KT.
DRX at least in 8th.
Yeah.
And you and I had them at 7th. I think that we believed after the first few weeks.
Yeah.
Or even, well, obviously when we made this in the first week, but after the first few
Yeah.
weeks, we were still kind of like, there's a chance maybe. Well, the team was absolutely a disaster, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like they weren't bold enough to keep Froggen and try to develop him early. Then they used him late when it was too late for him to actually grow into a player. So then they pulled him back out and put Rascal back in.
It's a rough year for DRX. DRX in Challengers was also kind of a disaster. So I feel like
Yeah.
those rosters were just. And in DRX's case, it bothers me a little bit more because I feel like on paper, just the Rascal Plata Teddy alone should be enough to put you over Nongshim. Like realistically, if those players play up to their level, and then obviously that didn't end up happening at all, unfortunately. But I think that's why I thought that they would be 8th, but I thought that it would be category B and K, Kwangdong, KT, just the worst out of those. But instead what happened is that if we look at the final scores, Nongshim is kind of in a league of their own in that they're like very much 8th. Because I think the lead that they have over DRX and Bro is actually like 6 games is a lot.
It's considerable, yeah.
Like, and I don't think that they come even remotely close to Kwangdong, but that's still, I would not have expected them to have a gap that big. And like they had some crazy stuff like 2-0ing T1, which was mostly just very funny.
I want to do a bit of a check-in on the KT situation as well, because I'm pretty sure in my mind they got 2-0'd by D+.
Yes.
In the second round. Second round, yeah.
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 They got 2-0'd by D+, and they 2-0'd like Nongshim.
Yes.
And I think that's it.
Oh, you mean in terms of series going to game 3?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not game 3. I'm talking about just like for both round robins, they went 1-1. Like the head-to-head is even with every team, except for D+ and Nongshim. I'm pretty sure, because they went 9-9. So
Yeah, they lost both series to DK.
yeah, they lost both series to DK, and they won both series against Nongshim, and
Yeah.
they were the only ones that weren't 1-1.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. Because
Maybe.
they did beat Hanwha, they beat Genji, obviously.
They
Yeah.
beat T1.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, perfect. KT's just, they were actually
The equilibrium
perfection.
level is extraordinarily high this season.
So 5th was the obvious choice. Only Max knew it. And the rest of us were like, no, Kwangdong's, they're fine.
yeah, it's a bit weird that I was the only one that... I was very adamant that I was going to stick to that one, though. And I think that I was also worried that it wasn't going to work.
Well, they could have been 5th or 6th, right? Depending on how the season played out with
Could have
9 to
been
9.
4th, too.
Yep.
Almost had a
I'm
tiebreaker.
kind of like, I have a lot to say about KT, but I think I'm going to wait until we do our little bracket thing before I get too deep into it. But
Yeah.
I'm both simultaneously hyped for, but also extremely disappointed by this team. But I'll hold it in for a little while.
Wow, that's never
That
before
sounds
been
like
said
a
about
very
KT.
Disappointed
that's
wolf.
a KT take right there.
So, out of the 4 teams that are, right, because we're going to talk about playoffs a lot. So, maybe for each, like, what was the best part? What was the worst part?
Of
for
what
all of the
teams?
bottom teams?
For the bottom teams, yeah, go for quick. I imagine we have a lot of overlap as well.
Doiv,
I'd say Doiv and the memes. The memes have held strong.
the memes. They
For-
actually
for
got
Breon.
stronger. They're like actually better, I feel.
Yeah.
Yep. Polu being really tall.
That guy,
That's
the Brion
important.
guy.
Oh yes. How did he not win? By the way,
I don't
the
know.
celebration.
It was
Well,
rigged.
I voted for him on the
Yeah,
desk.
no, it was
Oh
rigged.
yeah, yeah. No, I would have
Rigged,
definitely voted for
100%.
him.
We're not going to say a negative thing about Bro because they're
I
minus
think, I think
25.
Fate also looked better than the other options.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
that doesn't. I mean, it doesn't count though because it came in like the last like 2 seconds of the LCK.
Yeah.
I just
It was
wanted
the
to
second
say a
round
positive
robin.
thing. It's
Yeah.
hard to find them.
Played
you
the
know?
whole.
Well,
second round
I mean
robin.
talking about the year as a whole, but yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Pool
So-
Bay was completely underutilized, but anyway.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
He's just too nervous.
he is.
If that guy can get over his nerves, he'll stop flanking and actually play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Um,
Let's move up to
DRX?
DRX.
Double
Flat out.
Bros wins.
Wait, what?
They had twice as many wins as Bro. That's a really
Oh,
positive thing about
that
that.
is
a
positive.
Yeah.
I think that Plata has shown us that you can still have a glow up in spring later in your career, which is cool. I think summer was a lot worse, but spring.
Sponge had some growth.
Sponge actually
Yeah,
had growth.
he had growth.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that Pletter is like later in his career though. He's still very young.
I mean, he debuted in 2020.
I guess that was 4 years ago.
Actually,
was
was
happy
it
with
2021?
2021? Yeah, because it was bound
2021,
back out.
2021. Yeah.
We've had
Satan
Satan
had a
like
good-
in and out many times, but like this
No,
most recent
I
time he
agree.
was quite good. So that was nice. He had that like one Yone game
And
that
then he
was
got
really
banned.
sick, and then yeah,
He banned out every time after
yeah they
that.
banned the Yone.
Rascal ended
was
his
good.
career on a
Growth.
win. That was
He
nice.
did. Outside of, I mean, also Rascal's teleport timings actually got okay in their last match, which
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, Rascal was one of my favorite players, and I like
Yeah.
Solo kill king.
feel sad. I just
We,
feel
still,
sad.
we
Multiple
all still
seasons.
think back of 2022 when he didn't make playoffs, and we were all very sad about
I
it.
will remember him at his best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what we should do and not this split.
Yeah.
So Nongxi, it's the vibes. And today, I'm so happy that they ended on a win because they were back. This roster is definitely not going to stay together.
They played Neferi on purpose, and it was great.
I feel like this roster of the non-playoff teams has the highest chance of staying together, though.
Oh yeah, it's Nongshim.
Yeah.
I
When
hope
do they
so.
ever break up rosters?
None of these players are extreme. Like none of these
mean-
players are expensive. They're
Yeah.
all going to be. I hate to say it, but probably minimum salary. And they have some synergy they built up. They finally found a roster that's working.
And I don't think any of them are going to be sniped by teams above them, except for maybe
They could be
Sylvie.
sniped by overseas.
I
Yeah,
could
teams.
see
overseas. You might have like a couple of guys
Maybe.
go overseas, and then they have like 10 different players, so they just slot in the other guys where the
Yeah.
holes are
No,
left.
yeah, no,
I could see
Nongshim-
Dundun going to the LLA and just chilling.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think Dylan should become a streamer, and
Join Lava.
I will sub and indefinitely.
Yeah.
That guy's the best.
Oh, I thought you
Um,
meant like you were going to play top lane for
No,
Nongshim.
I'm definitely way worse.
Caster retirement confirmed.
Damn.
Yeah, Nongshim. I think the downside was that it felt like
All the
the
losing.
Googer. Well, yeah, I mean that's implied. But I feel like the Googer experiment ran longer than it should have.
It does leave a sour taste.
Oh,
in my
I
mouth, yeah.
don't think it's longer than it should have, though, because I think that they had to do it. I don't think Gugu was ever coming in to be the solution. He was coming in to be the stopgap while Vital got good enough.
I guess.
That was the only reason
I
he was
like
there.
that positive spin.
yeah.
I mean, that
okay.
was always what it sort of seemed like to me, because they moved Vital into the support role,
No,
and
I
then
think
they
that's
need
good.
someone to do something.
It's a good read.
A negative.
And
One big negative for me was no Peter. You know?
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Just
that's a
'cause
big
I'm-
issue.
just
they
'cause I'm
did
biased
lose.
and I wanted-
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, they did lose their two best mascots, which are Dylan and Peter.
We at
And
least
Peter's
got
dad.
Moham, and
Don't forget
and-
about Peter's dad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I know. I
Peter's
will
dad,
never
yeah.
forget about
Real life
Giga
Giga
Chad.
Chad,
Yeah,
actually.
Kwangdong?
nah.
Yeah, all right, let's
Yeah,
move
let's
on.
move
to-
on. Let's move on.
No.
playoff bracket.
I think that
He's got something to say about Bulldog.
Cuz better be hired.
you're on to me. No, it's actually Cuz, but I was gonna do Bulldog second. But Cuz is obvious, even though his last series was abhorrent. Cuz is the standout. This guy is a top tier LCK jungler.
Yeah.
He should be on a top team because I think that after his KT split, and even though he wasn't enough to carry this team, he still individually, with lanes that were very up and down, was, I think, exceptional. And I'm sad that he didn't make playoffs. It was like
I
Rascal
think
in
Cuz
2022.
still gets into my top 3 for junglers this season.
Really?
Oh,
I think so.
Jungle is
Canyon,
really,
Cuz.
Can
Oh,
you
yeah, I
Peanut
didn't actually
Cuz.
vote yet. I forgot to do that.
yeah.
I'm definitely voting for Lucid ahead of Cuz, but there might be others as well.
Is Lucid ahead of Cuz, like, for
Yes.
the value of him for the team?
I'd say so.
100% not.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
well,
that's if you're
relatively
talking about
not, yeah.
MVP or
But I
if
think
you're talking about
I think Lucid
level
is,
of play, that's different.
It's a good question, actually.
I don't think I would put
yeah.
either of them in my all pro.
I might even
That's
put
fair.
owner above because
I'm definitely putting owner in top 3.
even PogState
Yeah, I think.
pretty good.
I mean,
It's definitely not.
this is a
It's
different
not
topic for
PogState,
another time, but like
I would put him ahead of.
I don't think either of them get top 3 for me.
No.
We have really stacked junglers
Uh,
at the top.
I think all negative things about Kwangdong have been said in the debate episode, and they all came true.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Cronny. You may have won the Preds and I
But you're
voodooed
RNG.
my way into guessing what was going to happen. But the debate, you won the debate, but the numbers
Yeah.
are kind
Sad.
It was wrong.
Hey, got him.
My team got 5th place that I randomly drew out of a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, at least
Unlucky, Cronny.
Brendan did win though, so nice
True.
work on the.
I'm
debate
actually
result.
I'm really happy BNK made playoffs over Kwangdong. I think they look a lot better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's time,
It's
right?
sad they didn't get it through their own merit, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep, we're done with talking about teams that did not make it to the playoffs, so it's now time to talk about the playoffs themselves.
The
And this is the big one. Because I think we've had a lot of years where, like, especially like last season where we're talking about this and we're like, this is so cut and dry. It's feeling like we're probably, like, we all kind of know how it's all going to work. Of course, last year there was the disaster of the KT picking T1 thing, and that was hilarious. This time around, we could have an identical scenario. And I think it's time to bring out a whiteboard. So, give us a clap, boys.
3, 2, 1.
Yay! There it is. Okay, so now that we have the magical whiteboard here, we can go through what our playoff predictions are going to be. And okay, I want you guys to give me a little bit of like.
Well, what about the other team, Cronny? Just write in the other team as well.
Did you put Gen G and T1 at the end, or
No,
just
no,
as Gen G?
because I think that's a fair conversation.
We're going to fight.
We're gonna fight.
We're
And that's-
actually gonna
let's-
fight.
Yeah,
let's-
we can
we're
put
gonna,
these.
we're
We're
gonna
gonna throw
fight,
down.
But I also felt very confident, and also for comedic effect, that none of us would be opposed to that.
Yeah, no, that's happening. Yeah.
Can we just put in like 3-0 as well, or?
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another thing that we may actually all agree on, and that is that DK are going to choose BNK.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think that we can
Yeah.
I think
probably
we could
put that
explain
in round
that
one.
really briefly why.
Yeah.
Because they
Because
did play
Korean-
a close series.
Korean teams always just pick the lower seed
Yeah.
Yep.
every single time.
Yeah.
That's
so
it.
when,
That's the
when
explanation.
KT chose T1, T1
Please
was
use
the
the
lower
correct
seed.
T1 was the
Tricode.
lowest seed. Yeah.
Chronicler, you had one job.
Okay.
I'll fix it.
It's okay. You only have to write BNK once.
So you can put T1 KT. You can put KT in the T1 thing there as well.
Telecom war.
And so now from here, this is where, who knows? Because the problem is, right, if you're talking about like timelines, say like this was an episode of Loki, and you've got like all the divergent paths and you need to trim all of the timelines that aren't allowed and stuff like that.
It's kind of hard.
The deviation thing happens from that KT. As soon as that KT is written down, everything's doomed. Because
So-
who knows where things are happening?
This one, even though the series between them was close, after BNK's final week and DK's final week, I feel pretty confident it's like a 3-1.
Yeah.
Like, I think that DK, even though they have a lot of messy games, in a best of 5 will both have
Oh,
the
you didn't
ability-
mean 3-1 for BNK?
Yeah, no, sorry, for DK.
Oh, but it's aiming in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
like the only good player on
Last
KT.
year.
I don't know. I said multiple times in PogStates that aiming is going to start getting better at the end of summer, and he really has.
Yeah.
And now that we get into summer playoffs, I think he's going to be better than ever.
I also don't think BNK look that good right now.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things that I think about with this. I'm thinking 3-0 or 3-1 DK as well. Obviously, aiming being better. Like he was in that season where they went to the lower bracket finals. Was it 2023 summer? There was a bit of a error in that Ezreal game that I always
was, yeah.
reference. But I think beyond that, he had a great playoffs. But beyond aiming, I think there's a lot of ways in which D Plus have draft flexibility that BNK does not. They're very binary. When they're trying to not play dive or pick, they don't look like a playoffs team at all. Whereas D Plus will play Vi if you don't ban it, and it will be banned against BNK, so they can actually play both sides. Lucid is just way more flexible than Raptor, it seems like, even though they're actually very similar players. I just don't think BNK has the depth to win a best of 5 in any scenario. And I don't think they'd be able to do it against T1 either, to be honest, even if it ends up being a weird thing where D+ are like, I just beat KT, so I'll pick them, which will never happen. But if they did, I think either way, unfortunately, I just think BNK lacks the depth to actually win a longer series. And a BO3, like, still could happen, but in a best of 5, I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm getting weird.
The waters.
The waters are doing strange things.
I knew it.
I'm going down the list, right? And even at the top, you're like, oh, like Clear is really good. And he has only gotten better. Kingen, we have no idea how he's going to perform. We have never really had much of an idea about how Kingen's going to perform. He's like this clutch guy. Like if they're on, we'll know from the very beginning. Like I think that like game 1 and you'll be like, oh, this is Worlds 2022 Kingen. We're fine. Or it's like any other time Kingen.
2024 Spring Kingen.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, how did they make playoffs? You know, it's one of these coin flips that I think is going to occur a fair bit as we go down the list. But I think that it'll be a close best of 5. I don't think it's going to be necessarily one of these cut and dry best of 5s, because it was like the match between DK and BNK in round 2 was probably like it had the best game of the year.
I think it did have the best game. But I think the series, I'm with Wolf. Because I think in a best of 5 specifically, also this is where I think player experience really shines. Yeah. This is where Zepha being a Worlds winning coach really shines. I think all of those factors give me a lot more confidence, even though if it was best of 3, I feel a lot more conflicted. But I'm pretty confident that DK will be fine here.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys, the analysts. I think 3-1, though. I think it's almost impossible for DK to pull off a 3-0 against anyone. I just feel like Showmaker's going to troll game 3 after they, like, smash 2 games in a row with BNK, like, really struggling through draft. And then Showmaker's going to play, like, Cassidy or something, and BNK will win a game somewhere along the way. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's also going to be pretty interesting, too, because we're probably going to have Moham versus Duro. Couple of
that's cool.
Rookie,
the young boys,
dudes going head to head in the support roles. So a lot of mistakes could definitely be made when the nerves are on between those two. I think though, as a team, the draft stuff is there. I think that aiming has been amazing, and I think he's only going to be even better in the playoffs. So I just don't think BNK have the depth as well.
I think it will take a choke.
Give it to TK.
What about a red circle, by the way, around the winning
good
team?
Idea. What could happen is that like Moham just completely bombs, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that
or
I could
Kingen completely bombs, or aiming completely bombs, or Showmaker completely bombs, right?
The way that I'm looking at it though is I'm kind of coming back towards you guys. I started off thinking about the top side of the map, and I'm like, but Raptor's actually only gotten better. Clear's only gotten better, but unfortunately, Henna's kind of just gotten worse.
Yeah.
I think 3-1 is fair.
Be possible that it has to do with the bottom lane synergy as well. Like I think Henna himself is okay, but just as a lane, those two don't seem to be very good. They like put Duro on Rakan, and if he's not on Rakan, it's like, well, everything's up in the air, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
Aiming's
it's just
champion
a bit
pool is
wonky.
way bigger, even
And
though
also
he doesn't have
better
to
right now.
have it a lot. Yeah.
I think the 80 carry diff will be the biggest one for sure.
3-1 DK most likely.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so this is the point of divergence, right? Because
who's got a coin?
I don't even.
because
we're flipping a coin, and then we're going to do it once, and then we'll go back and we'll do it
to
the other
the
way.
audience to discuss it in detail. But actually,
First, we should flip though, right?
I genuinely have no idea what is going to happen. This is to me probably the most.
So you know what I said about Kingen? Just take that and apply it to every player on KT.
I think, to me, we don't know what's going to happen, but we know exactly why either of the two options could happen, right?
Yeah.
So either KT have the family game, where everybody's on the same page, synergy's incredible, they've got some great draft reads, whether it's a secret draft or it's an older draft they've gone back to.
Worlds
Barrel
2022 flashbacks.
Yeah, you get those flashbacks, you have those moments, right? I mean, this is a team that has basically the same score that DRX had going into the Worlds qualifier, where they then ended up winning the World Championship. a lot of that roster is on this team, where you have that insane pop-off game, and you're like, oh, okay, then KT come into game 2 with their confidence, they beat T1, right? The other option is Deft's playing like he played in his last few games. He has a really rough performance. Barrel is going in and trying to make carry plays when they don't have map control and getting picked and dying.
Banned out because they banned Ivern.
Yeah. Perfect.
And Maokai.
Perfect has a game where he just gets owned in lane randomly, even in a matchup that he's normally winning because he's still a relatively inexperienced player. I feel like KT either pop off and show up just the same way they randomly beat Gen G, where you're like, wow, if they play like this every week, 100% they could beat T1.
Also won the telecom war when they
They
were
also,
like,
yeah, they
mega
did
bad.
win it. Yeah. Yeah.
On their
in the
best
homestead.
day, they could actually be here. But I think the laws of averages the coin is actually a little bit weighted. I just don't think that I feel like I can't predict them to actually beat T1. They might do it,
shouldn't.
but I
Oh,
can't
what?
predict it.
No, they have about a 55 to 45% chance because they ended the regular season on -2, which means that, unfortunately, they're due for an upswing, not a downswing.
I just feel like, that meme has been very
Powerful.
true for so long that we as commentators believe it 100% because it does keep happening over and over. For me, I feel like KT, they overperform when they need to, when the stakes are high, when nobody expects them to win, when they're more comfortable, when they can just kind of play their game. And then other times when they have to face Bro and they're just kind of joking around and not really playing well, or they're just not really focused or something like that, then they can drop the ball. And it just feels like, where's the KT that we know? They just kind of stop playing their game. So you would say coming into this matchup against T1 that they should, stakes are on, it's playoffs. They will be respecting T1. They will be trying their hardest and their focus will be high. So for me, this has to be a 3-2 either way. But I would have to probably give it to T1 just because just as much as KT with their focus or whatever in playoffs is there, I think that T1 also, once they enter playoffs, are a different team and it's best of fives. And, it's Coma, it's T1. I think I would have to lean that way in a 3-2.
I mean,
for
yeah,
me.
we've been talking mostly about KT and good KT or bad KT. T1 has been, I feel like, pretty constant over the last few weeks. They got out of the trough they were in where they lost to Gen G, lost to Bro. That was looking really rough. But I feel like they'd still never got back to when we were like, oh yeah, they're 100% T1 Gen G finals last season. We were like, well, I mean, they're looking pretty good. That series against BNK was not convincing to me. I felt like BNK played very poorly that series, and T1 played well, but not incredibly well. So if good KT shows up, I think it's 3-0. If it's good KT and they're feeling themselves, I think it's 3-0.
I don't
if
think
it's bad
KT know what a
it's
3-0 looks like.
To me, I think it's either way, it's a 3-0. I actually don't think this goes to 5.
No,
I think if T1 could definitely 3-0 KT, because KT could lose the first game, get completely demoralized, someone's ego takes a hit, and then they just completely bomb out. I could see that happening, 100%. I could not see KT 3-0ing in any universe ever times infinity.
I don't think so. So for me, I think this will be a very close series. I do think that this is probably, in my opinion, with how I've drawn out the rest of the thing in my head, this is the hardest series for me to call. Because also this creates so many different timelines. Because if KT makes it, I think Gen G are picking DK, which sounds like insanity.
Yeah.
Over picking KT.
Right.
KT is lower on the
but
scoreboard.
I want to ease.
know.
I want to
I
ease
think they pick
things.
KT 100%.
It's a Korean team, so they'll pick the fifth place team instead of the third place team.
For me,
Yeah.
T1 over the last 3 years since spring 2020, they've just been too consistent. And I feel like, and this is going to be a recurring argument, right? Because we basically have a bit of spoilers, but I firmly believe that this is going to be Gen G T1 again, which I think Max subscribes to the theory as well.
Hell no.
Okay, well, never mind. It's just me.
You're alone this time.
I'm alone this time. That's fine. I think that specifically this roster has so consistently been able to power up when it's necessary that I don't believe that anyone will take that away from them until it actually happens, which hasn't happened yet since 2.5 years ago.
So the way that I want to do this is I want to do 2 iterations. We're going to ignore this and not actually come to a conclusion. What we're going to do is we're going to, first off, assume that T1 wins that first series. And after we've gone all the way to the end, we're going to do it again with KT. That's how we're going to do it.
That seems fair.
Lower seed.
We're assuming Genji picks T1, which is so funny, by the way.
Well, I mean, when you
But it's
consider,
100% right.
Yeah, but also when you consider how close D Plus always plays them in these big series
Oh,
and
yeah,
playoffs.
yeah. It's the right call, but it's
T1's
also
fourth,
hilarious.
And DK's third.
Thank you,
so.
fellas.
I mean, this
You know, that's the way it goes.
This seems like this is the part where we're like, 55-45 for me, T1. This is where it gets like super obvious, like how these matchups go. I feel. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, the first one is 3-0.
3-0.
Yep.
Like
3-1.
100%. Yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
I kind of like that as well.
Yeah, round 2 really is a bit.
It's not great.
If we get this,
It's
if we go into the future a little bit, things get interesting. But this is like so cut and dry for round 2.
Yeah. It's one team region, Genji. They're better than everyone else. They 2-0'd Hanwha Life Esports today. But also Hanwha Life Esports is so much better than everyone else as well. So it's like we have one tier, and then we have the second tier, which is Hanwha, and then we have everybody else. So
Genji Hanwha.
it has to be.
3-0, by the way.
So
also,
I do think this will be a blowout. I don't know if that will be. I think that I can see in best of 5 specifically a scenario where I think Hanwha Life, because I had them for second in regular split as well, right? For me, the problem with this Hanwha Life roster, which has only been further solidified as we see more of them in series against like Genji, I think that they at some point, I don't know if it's here, it might be later, right? But I think at some point that team is gonna not. They don't have the dog in him. Like they just, I don't know what it is exactly, but I just feel like this roster for me has never looked wholly convincing. And I think that DK and KT, or DKT1 and even KT, while they're much more flawed teams, when they
they're
look
on,
good,
yeah.
I'm like, I can see them win the LCK. Which in KT's case, they've obviously actually beat Genji. In DK's case, they've gotten very, very close and had the best game that anyone's gotten against Genji all year. Which even in the series that Genji lost, I think that first DK game...
it was the most dominant win, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, they beat them in series, like TES did, for example. But in terms of how that game felt, that was the biggest blowout, right? I'm still going to go... I would predict Hanwha Life. But I do think that at some point, I don't trust this team.
For me, it's like actually just one part of this matchup where I feel it's Dunzo, which is Delight versus Moham or Kellen. Like, Delight is looking so good right now. Everything
Ooh,
else
that's a
could
good
be a
point.
little bit like...
I thought it was going to be Peanut.
Up and down.
And I would also kind of follow on that. But no, I'm with you on that
I think Peanut's the secondary part. Like, Doran, I'm like, 100% he could lose to King, and like that could definitely happen.
That's for me is the secondary part. I think Lucid looked fantastic last playoffs. I think he's going to play very fine, and I think he's going to be very good. And I don't know about comparable with Peanut. I think Peanut will be the better jungler, but I don't think it's going to be like a blowout like Delight versus Moham or even
Kellen if he comes in.
Doran and King.
Doran and King,
like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Delight's just looking so on form right now that like I feel like he can just carry this game from engages. And Viper, if he has the space, like he wins
Viper
those.
looked pretty
I do
absent
think
today,
aiming is
too.
better than Viper right
Oh,
now.
100%. I think that's a kind of universal view, but it's also they're both 80 carries, so I don't know if it.
No, that's
It's how
fair.
you set up the 80 carries that matters more.
Again, I would predict Hanwha Life, but I think for me, this feels closer to like that series than it does to this series. This series, I'm like, Genji T1,
Yeah, I mean, there's always X Factor, and I think that Hanwha Life and DK are much closer. Yeah, that's 3-0.
I'm saying 3-0 either way on that one, T1 KT, but
so Hanwha Life 3-1,
yeah.
Yeah.
be Andy's.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think 3-1 just kind of makes sense.
And if
Unless
D
like
plus has one
if
cool
DK,
draft.
if DK
yeah.
win, if DK
Yeah.
win, it's a 5-gamer.
Yeah, I would say that's
probably
true.
yeah.
All right.
It's best of fives. Like there's only so much you can do.
Okay.
Now that's a 3-0
So is the left one.
for T1.
Over DK.
Yeah.
It's a 3-0. That's the one where
I'm
I'm
taking
with Wolf.
DK
I'm like,
3-0
that is a
over T1.
3-0 either way. Yeah.
I'll take DK 3-0 over T1.
DK have not looked good against T1 in like...
Which means that as soon as they're in playoffs, that's when they win.
Okay, so first things first. Boop.
Yep.
Is Genji just is that
Yeah.
that
Hanwha will definitely
yeah.
almost win 2 of these games, but not win them. Just like
They'll get really
today's
close.
series.
Yeah, it'll be a great series. It'll be like an awesome 3-0.
it'll be a banger.
It will be a
3-0.
sick 3-0.
Yeah,
That's so true.
It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, maybe we should write 3-0 feels like 5-gamer.
Yeah. It's a lot of words.
feels good?
Yeah, okay, feels good. It's fine.
Feels good.
I'm glad you didn't commit to writing
Okay,
the full
so
sentence.
that's the interesting one. I think that specifically that matchup for DK is like complete busto, never happening, absolute disaster.
Except that time they beat them in the finals of LCK.
But that was
That was a different
2021.
That was
Somewhat
the
a
Teddy,
different
Teddy
roster.
T1 roster.
Yeah, but also I thought that you were talking more so in the perspective of the orgs and like
No. I mean,
Showmaker was still on that roster.
Specifically this year, with how the way that these two teams have looked good, I think that if T1 shows up the way I expect him to, I think DK just tries to hands check them and loses.
I actually do think, for me, this is the most sure bet T1 series that we have in the entire bracket. Like, I do agree with Chronicler. I think stylistically, T1 just more solid, more clutch. Like if D plus play like a pick comp, or they play like a Talia composition or an Ari composition or something like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see them punishing T1 going for picks, because that was the Showmaker Lucid style of drafting. They've been indexing back into the aiming style, and just giving aiming money and being like, we'll carry this one, I feel like that isn't going to work against T1. It might work even against Hanwha in a game or two, but I feel like T1's playstyle is just not sit back and let aiming carry the game. Like, I don't think they'll allow for that.
T1 are definitely very, lane focused, get ahead in the lanes, make sure that aiming doesn't have kind of a pop-off series. I just believe in aiming's glow up at the end of the season, and the fact that DK are also like just one series behind Humble Life Esports. Like, they're a really good team, and
That's fair.
T1 have been all over the place. I think that, we can give a lot of credit to T1, and maybe they do have a huge glow up in playoffs. But for me right now, sitting here, I'm like, especially after they get smacked down by Gen G, I feel like DK will take it. It's just I feel like it's Brendo waters, like the rare Brendo waters,
One
which
other thing,
never really happens.
One other thing to consider is how volatile I feel like this mid matchup is going to go, because both of these mid laners have been so up and down.
Yeah.
I think Showmaker's looked much better than Faker overall across the entirety of the season.
He's on a down ebb right now.
He is on a
yeah.
down ebb. And I feel like it's much easier to target Showmaker in the lane matchups than it is to target Faker. You can take his 0 away, but then he'll just play Corki and have an okay game. As long as Showmaker's not on like LeBlanc, I feel like he can't own Faker, and that's like the weak link of T1 right now. Overall, I would say it's some weird games from Keria, some weird Zeus games. Owner's the constant, Guma's the constant, right? You have those two constants. Versus Lucid, I feel like has been pretty consistent this season. Showmaker is not, so can't be the one to punish Faker. And is Kingen going to be the one to punish Zeus? Like, I'm not sure about that.
I mean, it is an even year.
So for me, we haven't really discussed it that much, but the patch, I think, actually benefits. Well, every patch benefits Gen G because we think they're the best team by far. But I do think that out of
Senna
these,
patch.
yes, out of these, between T1, DK, Hanwha Life, I think T1, DK benefit a lot more from the patch than Hanwha Life do.
That's,
Is it-
I would definitely agree with.
Because so it's the patch with
It's new
Senna's
iteration busted Senna,
Yeah,
right?
so healing Senna's broken.
Azir
Azir is
buffed.
getting
It might just
like
be like permaban.
might be, yeah.
it
but,
should be permanent,
But Azir,
especially
Azir's
against
getting
Keria.
buffed. Yeah. Azir's getting buffed. Senna's not Senna. AD
Syndra?
carries are getting nerfed. Syndra's getting, but the Syndra buff
Yeah,
I
it
don't think
doesn't
mean
really
that much. Orianna buff is a maybe. So that's kind of like Silas is getting some pretty substantial buffs.
It's not an earthquake, don't worry.
Yeah, there's a bit of an earthquake situation.
Okay.
I thought it was. Oh my god.
Silas is getting buffed, which I hope will maybe finally bring some Maokai equilibrium as well. So I think all those, both of these teams will benefit from. To me,
Silas
might
buff
come.
is Showmaker buff.
Yeah, it
Silas
might
buff's
it might
pretty
come
easy.
down
Buff?
to
Could be top
be.
laner buff as well if
it
you
might
play it
come
into
down
Gnar.
to which of
Zeus
these
buff.
two
Zeus
has the
buff.
better meta read, and that honestly might be close.
It's late enough in the tournament where we are right now.
They're gonna have a
for
lot
the-
of games on it.
Yeah, I feel like T1 would have ramped for it.
No, we're playing on a different patch.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But like this
But
is,
but it's round 3
He's
is what
still
you're saying.
playing
Oh, yeah,
three
yeah.
rounds.
The meta will
They're
be
playing two
somewhat
best of
known.
fives beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
do
that
think,
benefits T1.
I do think if it was T1 DK like up here, then maybe DK gets the read. Thinking about it, again, which we'll get the notification
week
on very
one
soon.
Hanwha game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The week one situation. Oh no.
Actually, do we have the playoffs confirmed since it's past 9:30 now? Any knowers?
Any knowers? Not yet.
Any
We're-
I mean, they
realizers?
will have had to send it in, but we haven't gotten.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
Well, we know.
Yeah, we know.
Just making sure.
Surely.
All right.
Because the
So-
conversation got more
So,
interesting.
so with
I think we're still
DK
thinking that.
I'm okay with having us right on the board that T1 wins. It's in my waters that I feel like, I don't know, DK got him this time.
I do. Yeah,
I'm just feeling it.
My waters have completely flipped, and now I think that T1 won't even be there. So it's irrelevant to me.
You think they're gonna lose to KT?
well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk
New
about that.
patch, very
reality in a
first
minute.
series.
True.
Like, I don't know, man.
PogState's gonna play some
But if
weird.
this happens,
Uh-huh.
what are we leaning? Like T1 free?
3-0.
3-1 or 3-0.
I think if
I think-
T1 win, it'll be a
blowout.
like a.
3-0?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is. It could be considered quite bold, but I do think that that's kind of how I feel like it will go.
Yep.
I like.
I feel like this is all taking into account that T1 will have a glow up in playoffs, right?
Yes.
'Cause I think a lot of people will watch the regular season and say, well, T1 didn't look that good at all. Actually, they looked very slumpy towards the end. Like, why are they rating them so high? If you just look at this, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it's important to keep in mind that it's T1 and best of fives. They always seem to have a big glow up in playoffs, so we're kind of like getting ahead of
Yeah,
that.
if you
and
want
rating
to,
them higher.
know, like an example as to what we might mean, just look at the playoffs for the last 2-3 years.
Literally
and
the
then-
last
Especially
2.5
spring.
years.
Especially
Or
spring.
internationals where they also were.
Worlds.
there was that
like-
one in 2023 that they did relatively well.
Well,
in that
but
World
even in
Championship.
2022, the favorite from the LCK was Genji.
Also,
Yeah.
T1 looked pretty rough leading up into the World's finals
Even
in
in
2023.
Swiss.
Like Swiss, they
Yeah.
had
Yeah,
some
Swiss,
great
they looked-
games.
yeah.
They almost lost
with
to TL.
Swiss they were kind of bad, and then they were really good in only knockouts. But I was
Yeah.
much deeper into the
Yeah.
tournament.
I think it was as soon as we got into knockouts that they switched on. Like, I think that we had almost already written off all of our teams and were like dooming and glooming and everything
we
was
even had
awful.
an LNG voter.
I was going
on
to say, I
this desk.
famously thought that Scout was going to absolutely blast Faker.
Well, they were
and
looking
then it
like
was-
they were going to.
And then
They
it was
should've,
the
yeah.
exact opposite.
I'm pretty
now.
sure, because I was in Busan as well, that I was also, if I remember correctly, T1 was playing after Genji, and I was all ready to call it quits, because that was the quarterfinal where Genji got reverse swept. Mm-hmm. No, sorry, went down 2-0, then went back to 2-2, and then lost the final game with Doran having the flash.
The Aatrox.
The
Yep,
Aatrox
the Aatrox
flash.
flash. Yeah.
Never forget.
Which is, by the way, I just putting that again at the forefront of everyone's mind as the big Hanwha
Yeah, but this is
anti in this
domestic.
one. Yeah, fair enough.
That world
Doran
final
looked
was
great today,
that
right?
world champ was definitely not in Korea. Yeah, Doran looked great today.
But okay, so T1 win, and then
we have an
Oh,
update.
we have an update.
what?
Oh.
They chose BNK.
Oh no, we have
Wow.
to change everything.
Okay, it's all just the same. So confirmation that
Thank you,
DK
Guyan.
chose BNK, and none of us are surprised. And so because we now have Home Life Esports versus T1, that's a 3-1,
right,
3-2
this
for
is the
T1,
real
and
discussion.
then we get into it.
So I think that this was
This is
This
the
is what
auto
everyone
divergence
expected
point.
from like 5 weeks ago, by the way. Like, I feel like everyone was kind of like, oh, this will be what happens, who will win. Like, this seems super obvious. This is before T1 lost to Genji, then lost to Bro, and we're like, okay, what's going on with this roster? They're not playing well at all. But I mean, before that happened, everyone was kind of like, all right, so it's Hanwha T1 lower bracket finals. Again, everybody expects this. Nobody thought at the time that this team would be there, that this team would be there. I think this is the matchup that is going to have the biggest rift between all of us on what we think is going to happen. Because I look at this and I think outclass Hanwha is going to be more clutch. I think Zeka is unlike Showmaker, a mid laner that punishes Faker hard in that lane. And I think
He's also extremely solid right now.
Owner versus Peanut, like Owner can beat rookie jungler Lucid, relatively rookie. He's got a lot of experience now. Could beat Lucid, but against Peanut, he doesn't. He may beat him in a game or two, but I feel like he's not a better, much stronger jungler than Peanut. Peanut's kind of always had his number in terms of like pathing and stuff like that. Although I do think Owner has really improved in that regard over the last few years.
Is it Daddy Doran mode? Is that what we get to at this point?
He has been Zeus' father before. Jerry Springer, we might have to check, but
PogState Jerry Springer episode.
I wanted you to bring someone out, and they walk out, and the camera moves over. It's and we've got him coming in, and we get a big round of applause. Oh man!
Here's Doran right now.
Dandy comes up after the game,
Yeah,
and high fives
punches you in
Doran,
the
and he's
face or
like,
something.
no, Dandy comes out and high fives Doran, and he's like, "You are the father."
I mean, I could see that. I still think T1's going to win.
But why though?
I
I
don't
thought
have
you
a
weren't
reason.
with me.
No, I don't think that any of this is
Oh,
happening.
because KT.
Yeah.
Okay. But if this happens, if we're in this scenario, so I'm
If
with
we're in the doomed timeline, then I'm going back and trimming it, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
how good is Owen Wilson in that show?
He's absolutely phenomenal.
I want someone to tell me why T1 beats Hanwha with the information that we have right now.
Because it's because again, and I keep referring back to this, but it is.
Memes.
No, it's not memes. That's
Sorry, I just had to throw one.
I
in
mean,
there. Go ahead.
I can think of memes. But for me, I have so many times lost faith in the specific roster of T1, and I think that the problem is that once we get into best of fives, so many of the issues that this team has generally seem to kind of wash away as they can just lock in on a given day. And we had exactly the same scenario last spring, where at the top of the split, right, or at the top of the day, we were all talking about how it was going to be T1 Gen G, and then we lost some of us, and there were some Hanwha predictors over here, right? And then what ended up happening is that there was a 3-1, right? I think T1 beat them pretty
it was a pretty crushing win.
pretty relentlessly. I just don't trust Hanwha Life in best of fives. That's the core argument for me. It doesn't have as much to do with T1 because I think T1's form right now, they were good this week, but who cares? This
Well, you
week
simultaneously trust T1 and best of fives.
Yes.
Right? It's a bit of both.
It's a lot of both, and I do think that some of the buffs are just really big for T1, right? The fact that you might have to start either and Zeka is a good Azir, don't get me wrong. But if Hanwha Life is first picking Azir every game out of necessity or banning it, that, I think that's a big T1 win, and I think they can use that.
If T1 has won 2 out of 3 best of fives to get to this
Once they get
matchup,
here-
then there is no way that they lose, in my opinion. That's the thing. It's the ramp up. If we're in a universe where we've seen that happen, if they take down DK, I think they just roll through.
I'd also argue that once we get to this deep in, because again, the meta here is going to be probably very different from what we're going to end up with here.
Yeah.
I think once we get deeper in, counterpicks are going to be more effective. I think Guma right now looks. Does he look better than Viper? I feel like
It's
he does.
close, but
It's
I
pretty
think
close
maybe,
now.
I think
yeah.
Viper
It's
has
actually an
really-
argument, which is really sad.
which is insane if we look at the
Yeah.
first half of the split, right? And then I think that Delight is probably the best engage support we have. But in a best of 5 where Carrier gets to
I mean, if Carey is playing Brad again, man, I'm my
Yeah.
money's on his side.
Especially if the enemy team walks into the portals and walks
Yeah,
into the
I don't
slaughterhouse.
think
And
Hanwha
that game,
will
that
do
game,
that.
some of the mechanics we saw from Carrier were very impressive. Some of the lemmings on the other team were also.
Very impressive as well. Yeah.
I mean, that series was mechanically
No,
impressive
it's-
from Carrier, but also that was not
No,
as
I
that
agree.
was not
There
a
was a
statement
lot of
when
tilt.
Team.
There
Did you
was
guys
definitely a
also
lot
all
of
played
tilt.
the game? Lemmings?
Yes.
Yeah. Lemming
know.
pathing is actually relatively
It's really
predictable.
fun. It's just you have to get Lemming from point A to point B.
And they
it just-
try to kill themselves.
Yeah.
It's a perfect analogy considering the
Yeah.
magical journey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
This
Classic B&K.
What was it? Was it Daejeon? It was Daejeon last summer, right?
It was, yeah.
2023
Daejeon
summer.
Daejeon.
lower bracket.
This finals obviously is the team names are repeats of spring final or spring lower bracket finals, but I feel like the situation is actually a repeat of Daejeon, where you have a KT-like team here that actually I feel like is stronger. They might get out clutched by T1, but it's just like this, like the same situation where it's like, oh, Faker's injury, suddenly coming back, but only playing Azir, only playing Talia, right? I feel like this is like the exact same situation, except Faker is not injured, but he's extremely in very low form for the standards we hold Faker to. And you ban Azir, and then it's like, is he going to beat Zeka on Corki, Tristana?
Silas.
Azia?
Like, what else is he? He's going to get banned every game.
Well, I mean, Zeka just plays
I think T1 will have literally 0 games in this entire bracket of Azir played. It would be banned every single game. If you don't, then like, what are you even doing?
But
KT
I think,
won't ban it.
But then I think that's
so
my
true.
point. I think although there are still some lane swaps, with the meta moving away from lanes, and also I'm assuming that Zeus keeps the form we saw of him in the last 2 weeks as opposed to what he had mid-split. Plus the fact that you are going to be limited in draft, I feel like that's T1's comfort spot. That's where they have been good over the last 2 years, right? When you do have to kind of put yourself in a specific position, if you're blind picking Azir, you might not be able to get counter pick on support.
I feel like this series to me is where you end up seeing some of T1's limitations on display versus a team that I kind of disagree with you in that I do feel like they're pretty clutch right now. If you look at the loss today against Gen G, like Gen G were just the better team, and we all agree with that, and we can put the 3-0 down here and stuff, but like...
just put it in. Yeah.
But
I wanted to do that at
I
the beginning.
do feel like Hanwha challenged them pretty consistently, especially in the early game. There were some bad team fights. Gen G were able to just free farm.
They were winning
and, like,
game 2, right?
Yeah. In game 1, it was very close, I feel. So I feel like when I see how Hanwha was able to capitalize in some of those moments, sure, not completely, and weren't able to take that game 2 win, I feel like that makes me trust that even if T1 does ramp, I think they can beat the ramping T1 as well. Because I think they will also be, to a certain extent, ramping through these playoffs.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. I think they're very solid. They've had a lot of different players going up and down in form. Like, Zeka's been the one consistent for me, but you think about Viper, he was fantastic at the beginning, and now he's not so great, but they're also still, even without like the Viper Omega carry, still able to really challenge Gen G and nearly take them to like a third game. Whereas I feel like if T1 played against them today, it would look, it would be a quick 2-0. Obviously, that's very different from what a best of 5 will look like in a lower bracket finals in, 3 weeks from now?
In Gyeongju as well.
In Gyeongju. So I just feel like Hamalife Esports' form right now is going to continue through this, and they're going to look really good, and
Oh no, T1 win.
they're just going to be ready.
No, because Peanut has to travel. It's doomed.
I mean,
I
Peanut
It's
also
basically international.
I
Peanut
think
also
also-
traveled for
I feel like
the
Valdez and I are
finals
like,
that they
we
won.
have facts and analysis, and you guys are like memes. T1 win.
I'm not memeing.
I am.
Peanut traveled for other finals and 3-0 T1 in some of those.
But then he was the favorite on Gen G, and then they went to Busan.
Hamalife
and then lost.
Esports are the favorite against T1.
He mostly just had Chovy on his team, which I think was the biggest thing.
That does help.
I'm perfectly happy putting Hanwha in. Like, I don't think this will be...
I think like the team that should win is 100% Hanwha. If you analyze it in any way, it should be Hanwha every single day of the week. But
From
it
what we
won't,
know
but it
right now,
probably,
from what we
it
know right
probably
now.
won't be. Is
But
what
also
I'm saying.
from what we know for many years and the players that are on the teams, I mean, it does feel very close, and that's with me giving T1 a lot of credit for their big glow up in playoffs. I feel like this is one of the seasons where there is a bigger gap between Hamalife Esports and T1 than any other series or seasons that I've seen in a very long time.
It's
So there has to be a really there has to be a really big glow, like a huge glow up from
but
T1, and Hamalife Esports really need to drop the ball.
I can't drop, and I know that part of I can't drop last year summer.
Yeah, I keep.
I'm happy. I think that by all accounts, I agree with you guys. Do you feel like this is a free 2 or free 1 or free 0?
I feel like it's a 3-1.
Free 1.
Yeah,
I'd say if Hamalife Esports are going to beat them, it should be in less than 5
Should be a
games.
free
Yeah, I
one,
feel like
right?
if it's 5 games, then
It's
like
probably
something went wrong,
T1.
and
Yeah.
Han will have a bad read, and maybe T1 actually win.
And
But
at the
this
end of
is
the day,
this is
whoever
the
makes
worst
it,
timeline.
it's 3-0.
Well, no,
Well, this is just the timeline that we're experimenting with because the correct timeline
So-
happens next.
because I
KT win.
Well, no, but I actually think that because so this is how do we feel about this before we move on? Because I think KT being there changes a lot.
I think like the only change for me is that I think that T1 just randomly win and we all get annoyed.
Yeah,
I think that's what happens.
sure. But outside of that, I think that this could also be a 5-game DK win. But I think we all collectively
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of could see that
That's
one.
like the outside
I've-
Brendo chance.
This is probably a blowout.
DK saves Hanwha, by the way, by doing that.
Yeah.
If DK wins, then Hanwha easily breezes through that series
They
and it's
do.
fine.
If this ends up somehow being a Gen.G underperformance and they end up losing to whoever it is,
KT.
either Telecom. Like if KT goes, which we'll talk about that, I guess, in a little bit for more fully. But I do feel like if Gen.G lose here, they might not end up here. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anyone predicts it. They had a bad read here and have to recover. Like Canyon seems to be a player this year to when, if he's not winning and dominating, he's 2023 D plus Canyon, and it feels very different. I'm just saying, like, there is a alternate, like, 1% chance reality where, like, Gen.G loses here and actually doesn't make the finals.
I think they always make finals. I think even if they lose here, if they have, like, because don't forget, they're coming in cold after a new meta is coming in, right? And
If they
like,
lose to KT there, though, they have to face them again.
well,
Send
that
a
is
Nautilus.
actually what I think
That's pretty doomed.
that could happen, right?
So should we do the KT timeline now?
I think we have to. Yeah. Do we have a?
You could just use the black marker.
Because
Right?
it's the dark
yeah,
timeline.
Yeah,
just
the
do
dark timeline. Yeah,
Do
Okay, the dark timeline is T1 get eliminated. Which is obviously, like, given how the series between these two teams have played out and the fact that it's KT, completely possible.
If it's good KT, dark timeline.
Do Gen.G pick KT?
That's what I wanted to talk about. This
Atlas has
is
been waiting
so
for 20
fun. This is so fun because, like, imagine you're Zephyr and you get that note that, oh, by the way, KT's won. Like, just a bead of sweat immediately down the side of your face. You're like, oh, sorry. If you're Coach Kim, you're like absolutely terrified. Zephyr is also a bit terrified because he feels like maybe he's got a chance of
KT's in
being
the
chosen.
playoffs. Yeah.
Like,
I'm not going to lie. I think if Gen.G and KT meet in the best of 5, Gen.G's going to smoke them. I feel like...
I think it should be the smackdown, back to reality.
Yeah.
Oops, there goes gravity and that sort of thing. But, like...
But what I do think might happen, which would be a first, is that instead Gen.G pick DK.
That's
and
what
we
I'm
enter
thinking, yeah.
the funniest, which I don't think they... Like, is there precedent for a Korean team doing that?
No, I almost feel like it's never happened.
Yeah.
I don't have the stats in front of me,
obviously
but
this
like
format, I mean, this format is very new, right?
Yeah.
It is, yeah, only
we had
since,
Gauntlet
2022?
2022, yeah.
Yeah.
We had Gauntlet before this, so actually
just
no, I
in
think we even
general-
had this in 2021.
2023.
yeah.
No, we
20
definitely didn't in 2021.
Well, we didn't have the double elimination bracket, but we had team selection.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
had
sorry.
team
Yeah,
selection,
yeah,
yeah.
true.
but it was just starting like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the later on. So I
'Cause
think
that both options for Gen.G, I think, feel bad.
Yeah.
so against D plus. Historically speaking, it's been very close. But I think if I look at average D plus, like even on their best, but average, Gen.G smoke them, right?
Yeah.
KT average as well, they smoke them, right? It's just good KT, which is why we're here in the first place.
Yeah.
That makes you wonder, can
mean,
they actually
the thing
outclutch
is, yeah.
3 games in a row?
KT has a chance of winning. No other team outside of top esports has a chance of winning.
I just,
That's the
for
problem.
me, I think the Sentinel series was a series that was very obviously, that was a draft thing, right? And I think in both series, though, Canyon heavily underperformed. I think Canyon looked really like by a large margin worst jungler in both series. I'm kind of wondering, is that enough reason for Gen.G to just... Because the series against DK are always close, but they have not lost to them since 2021.
Yeah.
Or DK hasn't won versus Gen.G since 2021.
There seems to be like a theme here when you think about KT's kind of weird wins. Remember when they beat T1 in the Telecom War in the first round robin? Low expectations. They were in absolute shambles. They were in like 9th place.
No,
They were 0-4, right?
Yeah.
You get to that point, and then the prep gets really good, right? You get really prepared. You are hardcore focused on, like, we need to improve, we need to fix this, and then they have a glow up. You lose to Bro. Oh, this is a disaster. We really need to focus up. You beat Gen.G. I think if you beat T1, I hope you're not, but maybe you're feeling like you're not in a bad spot, you're not actually hyper focused. But if you actually believe that you can beat Gen.G and Hirai is going the drills with Supreme and they're actually really hard focused, they have a little bit of extra time obviously between round 1 and round 2. maybe they have enough preparation to actually have those clutch performances, because it feels like KT are either super honed in, and I keep calling it like the family vibe, but when everyone's on the same page, they're playing the macro game really well, they get an early lead, they're super oppressive. That's how they beat Gen.G with the Senna comp, where they just were way more coordinated as a squad. That's how they beat them last time around, just very recently as well. Just were the better team on the day. I wonder if they'll have that. Like, I'm trying to figure out how they get that energy. Like, how do they get to that point?
But they can also utilize the Beryl patch Zerg, which is like actually real. If Beryl is like on and he actually wants to win, and it's an even year, he probably does.
He should be.
Yeah, like they could honestly patch Zerg them. And I think that applies to both T1 and Gen.G, actually.
Yeah, I do really think that in this series where, even leading up to the KT, I think Gen.G have looked a lot sloppier than they did previously in, what is it, like up to week 6, I'd say. Because that's when pace started taking over, because I think the Canyon and Chovy in particular started
they were doing some like Draven experimenting as well. Like
Lahens was starting to get a lot more into like spring, not to the same extent, but he started dying a lot more, right? I truly do think, and it's also keeping in mind that Gen.G also absolutely obliterated KT in the first series that they played, right, in Round Robin 1. That it's not only going to require KT to have a really good day, but also Gen.G to have like, again, Canyon needs to... Yeah, like super over, and I don't think they will because of what happened in the previous series. I think that Gen.G in that series looked like they were just playing pretty sloppy. That doesn't take away from KT's threat though, which is why I'm like, I still don't know if they would pick DK, which I feel like is actually the right choice.
No, for me, I think 100% they will pick KT, and I think it's the right choice as well.
Yeah.
I think that DK are just too strong. In comparison, it kind of feels like in my brain similar to how I was comparing Homa Life Esports and T1. Like I think DK are miles ahead of KT, and if KT beat T1, I feel like that might just come from T1 underperforming and KT like performing well and being good KT. But like I still think in Gen.G's mind, there's just no way they can lose to KT again.
I think Canyon also can't afford to pick Showmaker. You know, if given the choice, I think Showmaker would just come up and beat him up.
I feel like the more I think about this, for the same reason why I initially said, like, there's no way good KT, I can predict good KT will just show up here, like, we can't know. I can't then, in good conscience, predict that KT will have a good series against Gen.G.
No, I don't think
can't
they will
do
win.
two good ones at the same time.
I think
like
Gen.G will pick KT, and Gen.G will smash KT.
So
I think it'll be a 3-0.
3-0 Black.
Yeah.
Black 3-0 under the 3-0, yeah. It was like fun to talk about, but yeah, ultimately I think this is the reality.
Yeah. And then KT goes to lower bracket against DK, and they win that. And then they lose the next one. And then we get Gen.G Hanwha.
Don't they just get smoked by DK again?
They do.
The more I look at this, because I think that T1 beat Hanwha.
It is a Azir patch.
But I don't...
BDD is a much better Azir.
I don't think...
DK are the only team to 2-0 KT this season.
Yeah, my problem is that either of these teams are not stopping this team, which I hate. Because I don't think KT or DK are beating Hanwha.
No, I don't think so either. I think actually maybe DK could if they have like a really good read on the day or something like that. But
I mean, KT by beating T1 in round 1 will have saved Homa Life Esports and will have got them to the final.
100%.
That's what gets Hanwha to the final in my mind.
No, I agree. Because I think that KT and DK, for some unforsaken, I don't know what pact they made with what entity, but I think they're the only shot of actually beating Gen.G. But the problem is that they're never meeting Gen.G in the finals.
We can't get them there.
Yeah.
Unless Gen.G like does like some weird self-kill by picking DK at the very beginning.
Well,
and
or they lose to KT, which again I think is unlikely, but literally not impossible. They're the only LCK team to do it. And this is not an unprecedented thing that a team just somehow doesn't know how to deal with an opponent that should be way weaker. But I think, unfortunately, if KT beat T1, it's Gen.G Hanwha, which is worse. I think if T1 make it here, that finals might be fun again. Gen.G will win, but it'll be cool.
A cool
we
3-0?
we get Hanwha.
No, like a 3-1 or 3-2.
We get Hanwha DK as well. in the lower bracket finals.
Yeah.
Hanwha DK is actually pretty
3.5
interesting.
years.
I think
now.
this ends up being a DK.
Genji Hanwha, I will never predict anything but 3-0. Mm-hmm. Never for
Never.
Genji.
What do you think happens in the Genji KT finals if that happened?
If they get there, obviously KT wins.
You think so?
No, but if they're not getting there, so it's fine.
Is that the second best finals next to D plus Genji?
Honestly, like,
No,
if
the
it's Genji
second
KT
best-
and there's a game 5,
Guys,
like, that's the best.
The second best finals is the telecom war.
Is that even? That's not possible.
That's not possible.
Yeah, that's
No.
definitely
Which
not
is-
possible. But that would have been.
It's
That
the
would have
hidden
been
timeline.
I mean, that's why this is so doomed, right? Because we didn't have DK picking
Yeah,
KT.
they
If
denied us
DK
it.
had have picked KT, then it's possible.
Yeah,
Now
they denied
suppose
us.
B and K goes to the finals. No, I think it's time to I think it's time to end the
That's a
episode.
good time. Yeah.
I saw Gahyun like
call,
a deep yawn after I said that.
Yeah,
That's how I know
yeah.
the episode
No,
is
I
over.
think that's
no.
That's how you know the episode's over.
So maybe that's so. Let's just do like the last minute official take that B and K are the dark horse, and who knows, they might be able to make. They can't. It's probably not going to
We've
happen.
already confirmed that KT are the dark horse.
No, KT are just
It's the
KT.
dark timeline.
That's true. They are members
Yeah.
of the Dark Timeline. It is really, it's starting to get on. And I know it's been a long episode. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I hope this makes more sense than it does to me, to you guys at home. And also, we don't have any punishment for the Comic Sanses here. So if you've got any suggestions, maybe that's what we're going to utilize. So something like drawing on a fake mustache for one of the playoff games could be
L.
a thing. If you remember, there was the L on the forehead. There was also the clown hair wig
Single
thing.
piece of tape.
Yep, or like a piece of gum in your head. No, not that. That's
Just hanging
horrible.
off your
Never do
chin.
that. Gum in the hair is awful.
What about peanut butter in your eyebrow?
Peanut butter in your eyebrow, I would do voluntarily. That sounds amazing. A little bit of to
We
go.
already know who lost. Like, I'm right here. I mean, Deacon's not here, but like, you know.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry, Wolf.
Like, close the episode and please leave good comments. Thank you.
All right, let's just tell Wolf what he needs to do. Thank you so much for
And
watching.
Digon.
And Digon. Yeah, but Wolf's the one that's here. It's being represented at the moment in Comic Sans. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time for the next episode of the PogState. And for the LCK playoffs, it's going to be absolutely amazing. We'll see you there. See how wrong we are.